interviewing another one of the letter writers in our book of letters to our Catherine. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, Cynthia. Thank you. My name is Katherine. I'm an ADHD coach and I live in Scotland. I've been coaching people with ADHD for the last 4.5 years.
When we announced this project of writing letters, you jumped right on it. What was it that attracted you to write a letter?
As somebody who was diagnosed in my 40s, which is 10 plus years ago, I was thinking, what would my life have been like if I had known at a younger age about ADHD, how it would show up in my life, and what difference would it have made to me as a child, as a teenager? I just felt that was a wonderful idea and a great opportunity to spend some time thinking about it and then share something useful for another adult who was diagnosed later or for a girl who was thinking, what's wrong with me?
In reading your letter, I get the impression that it was hurtful to not understand yourself and to always feel like you were being blamed for things you're saying. Most importantly, you'd understand that your brain's not doing what it's supposed to do when it's supposed to do it. It's just how your brain's built. You're not doing something to upset the world at large. That just sounds like that
Mm,
capsulated your childhood.
yeah.
Speak more about that.
Absolutely. I was really lucky to have wonderful parents who are still with me. They were very young when they had me. And in the 1970s, nobody had a label for ADHD. They just assumed that I was being fidgety and disruptive on purpose, or that I was forgetting to do things I'd said I would do on purpose. In the 70s, you would send your kid round to the shop to pick things up for you. I remember my mum saying to me, "Can you go get a paper? Don't forget to say please and thank you." I ran all the way to the corner shop, which wasn't far
How
from
the
the shop.
story is going to end.
I said please and thank you and went home without the paper. Everybody laughed, but there were other times where it was not so funny. My brain was focused on the please and thank you. That was really important. The purpose was just gone. It was frustrating for the adults to have this clearly capable kid who just did bizarre things that they couldn't understand for no obvious reason.
And for yourself, knowing that you were smart and capable and were doing things that you would think were stupid. Do you remember any negative self-talk that you had going on?
Oh, so
Uh,
much, especially as a girl, the social impact of ADHD and the
uh,
emotional fallout from my behavior and not understanding other people. My daughter, I always say she's like a peach. She bruises really easily. I was the same. It would have been helpful to have a bit more understanding, even if I couldn't do much about it. That negative self-talk was a real
uh,
light.
Sometimes the knowing isn't going to make things different, but it's amazing how different it is just to know.
Yeah, even if we can't fix things, we're always going to have a thinner skin maybe than other people, or we're going to react more. We can learn to accept that as just part of us rather than something that we could fix or that needs to be fixed.
You're talking to your little self and saying, you're not just dreaming, you're creating entire worlds. That sounds like it was enjoyable.
Absolutely. I don't have the same visual imagination my daughter has. She can draw things straight from her head, but I could tell myself stories and I would get lost in them. It was all very real and vivid, and it was an escape as well from growing up in a mining village in the 1970s. It could be a bit gritty. I would escape into these wonderful imaginary stories where I talked about numbers having personalities. I would make things up to keep myself engaged.
Were you in the stories?
Sometimes it was just adding sparkle to everyday life and adventures. I was a big fan of Robin Hood and those classical stories. Yeah.
But when it's enjoyable too, is it's that creativity aspect that people
Yeah,
with ADHD benefit from.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I was a big storyteller.
You write to this sentence, don't let the weight of your potential keep you stuck between the expectations of others and
Mm,
ADHD frustration.
yeah. For me, it was a combination of things that I wanted to do or try and what other people thought I was capable of, but actually that wasn't suitable for me. For example, as a teenager, I quite wanted to train as a hairdresser. And I remember my granddad telling me, "Oh no, I think you're meant for something different than that." Because I was so academic. Just because we can be good at things, that doesn't necessarily mean it would suit us. And I think looking back, there were opportunities that would have maybe played more with my creativity and my strengths, but wouldn't have needed me to go through the stress of 2 degrees and all the challenges that brought me. It's about embracing the parts of you that are naturally strong and putting to one side the expectations that other people have sometimes with ADHD. Because just because we can do something doesn't mean we should, because the
Right.
fallout is going to be bigger.
I think that message is getting out there more that children that have ADHD, we should get them to follow their passions, get them to be in their passions. You're saying if you were encouraged in your passions, you might have had a happier experience growing up, but you were geared away from things that were your passion.
Also, I took that on myself. If I turned around and said to my parents, I'm going to leave school at 16 and train to be a hairdresser, they would have bit their tongue and not said anything and waited for me to go, I want to go back to university. Do something that you enjoy with no expectation that you make it into your career until you're a bit older and you have
Yes.
time to really think about what do you enjoy, what are you good at, instead of committing yourself to a 4 or 5 year degree, as was the case when I first left school. I look back at it now and oh my, there's no way I could have done that.
What you're saying too is that we're not assertive enough. Maybe that has to do with the people pleasing, but I think that's changing too. Girls are learning to be more assertive.
Yeah, I hope so. I've brought my daughter up to be very vocal about what she needs and what she wants. And
Yes.
when she does it, I still have to go, oh, yeah, I taught you to do that. I taught you to advocate for yourself.
Yeah,
I have to live with it.
I'm happy. I'm happy you're doing that, but not with me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you go on, which is what you're teaching your daughter. You are the only person you need to please. You will
Mm,
work it out. You don't need approval from partners or friends to be worthy of rest, love, and acceptance.
yeah. Oh goodness, that's making me tear up again. I don't know if it's a cultural thing or a universal thing, but I feel like so many of the people I work with and myself, we feel unless we are working really hard, we don't deserve to rest and take
Right.
time off to recover. The amount of effort we have to put in because of ADHD and because of our social conditioning, our belief about what our role is, we need more than we might expect, or it might look different. That's really important.
We were always telling ourselves we were lazy, and that
Mm.
feeling that we're lazy, we can't reward ourselves yet until we can prove we're not lazy. Then we've earned our reward, which is resting.
Oh gosh, yeah, 100%. That feeling of being lazy is just such a destructive one. Who does it help? It doesn't help us. It doesn't help other people. We're miserable and we hate ourselves because we're lazy. But isn't it interesting that it's such a universally bad thing to be seen as lazy, when in fact we have no idea what's going on in somebody else's head or body?
I'm Going off on a tangent, but another committed partner wrote about how we can't really understand what is in someone else's head. You don't really
Mm,
know what their thoughts are. And so
yeah.
when you're trying to label what they're experiencing, you could be wrong. The same with looking at their behavior, judging that their behavior is lazy behavior and always isn't.
Yeah, so much of the time with ADHD, people look at the behavior, what they can observe. That's, of course, the whole basis of diagnosis. But the internal experience can be very different. The internal hyperactivity and very busy thoughts and overthinking, that for me was just as exhausting as the physical work of growing up.
You need to talk with the person. It's
Mm,
not just the checklist because that's not showing the internal, the lived experience.
yeah, absolutely.
You're advising your little self to trust your passion for fairness, your authentic self. These will win you more people. You're saying find the right people. Don't change yourself, but find the right people who accept you as you are.
Absolutely. It's true for everyone, but especially women with ADHD who become these chameleons to fit in and be
Ah,
accepted by the people around them. Sometimes that works out if you meet the right people, but often it doesn't. You have this sense of not being true to yourself. Eventually, that can contribute to burnout, which lots of people with ADHD experience. You're permanently on, you're constantly in a role rather than just being who you are.
I had a son that lied a lot. I used to tell him that makes life harder because you're always trying to remember the lies you told. Are you keeping your story straight? Same could be with masking. You've
Mhm.
pretended to be a certain way, and now you have to remember how you were with that person.
We don't do it consciously. If I talk to somebody from Glasgow or from Australia, after a couple of hours, I have their accent. It's not something I've done on purpose, but I
Uh,
pick up their accent. My daughter does the same. We fit in with their patterns of behavior or speech, but we're not choosing to do that. For people to consciously stay in themselves takes a bit of effort to begin with, but it is possible. Then, as you say, you don't have to try and remember who you are. If you introduce your friend from Glasgow and your friend from Australia, they're both going to look at you like, why are you talking differently?
yeah, right.
Or why are you behaving this way when your social worlds collide? You need to spend some time knowing who you are and then
Yes.
learning to accept it so that you're okay with being different from other people. That's quite a challenge, especially for teenagers when they're going through that phase where their peers are so important and they want to fit in.
I got to talk with a 12-year-old girl the other day who grew up knowing about her ADHD, and it was so refreshing to see
Mm,
how it's no big deal.
so great.
Yeah, it was a nice experience. You get to create the meaning of your own life. When did that evolve for you?
Oh, goodness. I would actually say in my 40s,
Mm,
after my diagnosis, when I finally understood
mhm.
why I saw the world and myself so differently. I don't know if it would have happened in my 40s anyway, because as you get older, you lean more into self-acceptance. But for me, the meaning of life was something that developed later. And being okay with saying, this is my life, and I'm happy with focusing on my values and what I want to make it stand for, instead of worrying about disappointing other people.
What I've gotten out of reading the letters from the other women is the diagnosis is key to getting to
Mm,
that point of being able to look back and make sense of it. Without that manual, that lens to look through, you
mm.
don't have a way to make sense of all the stuff that was nonsensical. It's another argument for the diagnosis or for identifying ADHD. You write, your brain works in beautiful, complex ways that this world desperately needs. You'll learn to trust your deep curiosity, your emotional intensity, your unique way of seeing connections others miss. Tell me about how you like your brain now.
I love that my brain gets really excited by things. There are different flavors of that, different varieties. For instance, this weekend I was listening to a book by Rory Sutherland called Alchemy. It's about advertising and the psychology of marketing, but I could see really clear connections with how it works for people with ADHD and how we could use some of the techniques and strategies that he talks about to help ourselves. So I'm thinking, oh my, I need to write that down. That's really useful. I like being able to pick things up from different areas and
Ah,
and renew them for myself or for my clients. I love
uh-huh.
experimenting with things. Yesterday, I did a huge house clean with all the little pockets of things that build up as they do when there are people in a house. I just spent the day going right through them. And instead of
Oh,
thinking, why can't you do a little bit every day? I'm okay with doing it in one big go. I really love the way that my brain will spot the connections and get interested in things. I'm absolutely fine with doing things my way, but it has taken quite a long time to get to the point where I'm not interested in learning to do it somebody else's way. I'm
yes.
happy with how I do it.
Your final thing says you're going to be just fine.
Yeah.
You're telling the young girl she's going to be just fine. You're giving her reassurance that life is going to work out okay.
There's a difference between saying you're going to be fine and everything's going to be great.
Oh,
Life has light and shade. If we didn't have the challenges and the road bumps, we wouldn't enjoy it when the road was smooth. We wouldn't see the value in my brain's now showing me freshly tarmacked roads and all these kind of visual metaphors that it gets very excited by. But the fact that we can be fine whether the road is bumpy or smooth is more valuable than saying everything's going to work out great. That's not what life is like, but we will be fine whatever happens.
well, most people that have challenges in their life, they more or less value having those challenges. They
Mm,
say, I wouldn't wish it on anyone else, but I'm proud of who it made them. They wouldn't be who they are without those challenges. That's what I hear from the stories of women with ADHD. They
mhm.
had a lot of challenges, but they're proud of where they are now.
It's helpful for young people to hear that life might feel really tough just now and you might be facing some challenges, but that's all just extra material to make you even more amazing as you get older.
All right. Thank
Yeah.
you, Catherine. Have a
Thank you
good
for
day.
inviting us. Thanks,
Bye
Cynthia.
bye.
Bye.